はい、よろしく。
Hello, everyone. Are we all ready? So, new forms of consensus using collective intelligence. This is session 2. I am Shutaro Aoyama. I'll be moderating this session. I would like to ask each of the speakers to introduce themselves, starting with Colin. Can you introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Colin.
Microphone?
Mike, right there.
And testing. Good afternoon. My name is Colin McGill. I am the founder of Polis, which is an open source technology, and the president of the Computational Democracy Project, which is a 501c3 nonprofit based in the United States. Grateful to be here. Thank you for having me, to Glenn and to Audrey, to Ken and the entire plurality community here in Japan and the Code for Japan communities. And a major congratulations on the launch of the book and the translation. I'm very excited to be here. Yushitaro.
Thank you for that. If you could briefly also talk about Polis, about consensus building. And when it comes to consensus building technology, Polis is a wonderful technology. So if you could briefly explain about it.
You meant a full introduction, and I will do that.
Like 3 or 4 minutes.
Well, then I'll say that this is a very important and moving moment to me. I will say that there are 2 memories that I have that are with me now. One is that when I was in college and university, I wrote my senior thesis on Japanese Zen, but I have not visited Japan until now. And so it is a particularly meaningful moment for me to be here in the country, and I am grateful and honored. And the other, on a lighter note, is that I would say that Neon Genesis Evangelion is maybe a little bit of the inspiration for Polis, just a small amount. And so I would say also I am excited to participate in Japan at this particular moment, because it's clear from the many conversations that I've had what an extraordinary moment this is in Japanese politics. And so I will briefly say that over the past 13 years, I've been engaged in building an open source technology for collective intelligence called Polis. The interface is relatively simple. The analysis that can follow from the simple interactions of submitting statements and agreeing and disagreeing and passing on statements is maybe a bit like the game Go. It's very simple rules and very complicated analysis and very deep implications. And so I think that the exciting thing is that maybe it's better to see society, just as Audrey said, is in non-binary terms, not as black and white or as one party or another, but instead as many different opinions, many different stakeholders, many different locations, many different views, and that the beauty within that, and the beauty of the patterns within that is enormous, and there's a lot to look at, and there's a lot to see that reflects on ourselves. And it's this pursuit of beauty and this pursuit of a vision of the public that the public has of itself, in its own terms and in its own eyes, that has driven the development of the technology for over a decade now. And I'm grateful to see not only the community that has emerged around these ideas over that time, but also, of course, the technology that's being developed domestically and advanced in new contexts. And so I think it's a particularly exciting time, of course, because every time there is a technological revolution, we have a lot of new tools to play with as well. And so we have a lot to talk about on this panel.
ありがとうございます。では次にじゃあトンフィさんに。
Thank you very much. Next, Tonfi-san. Hello, my name is Yuki Tonfi. So people call me Tonfi. So normally I work as a lawyer, but today, Polis. Colin founded it, and also there is a product that I want to introduce, and I embedded a Polis. onto the product that I am about to introduce, which led to plurality. So that is a topic I will be covering today. I am working for a non-profit as well, so I try to introduce this product today. Please go to the next slide. Well, before I became a lawyer, I was engaged in this NPO non-profit called Miyaoka, called Japan, providing Japan Choice. So using technology and design, we have been trying to empower and advance data technology and design democracy. So I believe in the first session, design was mentioned quite a lot. So using data and technology tend to be very innovative. So innovators and early adopters tend to like such idea. But earlier we talked about the division with information illiterate people. I'm one of them. I cannot write a code and I cannot implement things on products. So user interface and design can be used as well. And many people can be included in the deliberative collective decision making and so on. So that is why we established the Japan Choice, Challenge of Japan Choice. And people get information, understand it, and then make output. I believe that the democracy is a result of such a process. But in the phase of input, there is an excess information today. And you sometimes don't know if the information is right or wrong. And then first, optimized quality information needs to be produced. This is something that I'm interested in as well. But because of that, Suzuki Ken's company, I joined his company, and now I am working at Smartness as a lawyer in the legal department. And then Japan Choice is trying to work hard on point number 1 and point number 2. So deliberation and empathy have been mentioned as keywords today. So if decision-making is too much simplified, or understanding a process is too simplified, like System 1 and System 2, it'll be a very simple, sort of instinctive decision-making, but we want to change that. And then the third one is that once in 4 years, you cast a vote to choose some political party. But without such a simple system, perhaps a reflection of collective will is possible. So some kind of a data technology or design power can be used for point number 1 and point number 2. That is what Japan Choice has been trying to realize. So Japan Choice has this smartphone website here. So at every national election, it's been updated. So from 2017, we have been providing this app for the past 8 years. So information illiteracy is such a negative expression, but so that everyone can use it. Those who are too busy, those who are politically apathetic, they can spend just 15 minutes using a system too when an election takes place. So we have gathered various functions on this screen. For example, we have a vote matching, politics quiz game, and policy comparison chart for different political parties. We probably produce the most political policy comparison charts, and also policy matrix and KPI tracker are offered as well to provide assessment. And younger people don't know how to vote in the first place, so how to vote matching function is also available. Through this process, last year, a police open source software was leveraged, and we delivered this thing called Yoron Chizu. I want to share this with you today. We have about 1 million users today, and people in their teens and 20s and 30s and 40s, they are the main users, and millions of people can use this platform. So this is the platform that is widely accessible by a wide generation of people. So I would like to hand over to Nishio-san little by little, but since request access, so I cannot show you the video, but this Yoron Chizu, vote matching, are you for or against consumption tax hike? And then after that, what about a nuclear power? You get 10 questions, for example, and then you are given a political party that is suitable for you. But 10 years ago, this was interesting, but now it is too simple. What about economic policy? What about a consumption tax reduction? What should be the percentage point? What should be the alternative funding? What about the social security implications? So if there is one topic, you can deep dive that particular topic, and you can express your views, whether you are for or against. And as a result, in the society, people are not just all up for consumption tax reduction. There are different clusters and divisions, and all clusters actually are for just one topic, and then you can visualize that. So it is a police which is achieving it rather than Yoronchizu, but using the backside of police in a way by design. This is accessible by tens of millions of people. So from last year's House of Representative election, this has been offered, and in 2 months' time we will have an upper house election. And then when we launched the beta version, about 4,000 people used it. And then at the upcoming upper house election, we hope that more people will use this one.
So if you could give me the microphone and the clicker. I did not introduce my slide to introduce myself, so I'm just going to ad-lib it. So ever since I learned about plurality concept, I wanted to communicate it to as many people in Japan. It was English version on GitHub and translated into Japanese automatically, and the machine translated version was introduced into Japan. And with many people's support, with a lot of people's support, I was able to see this fruit. And so I'm so excited. I'm so inspired by this. So in the same way, Talk to the City and the Polis, such a broad listening tool, I want more and more Japanese people to make use of it, experience it. And so Polis, to be delivered to the Japanese audience, I was approached by Colin, and I therefore participated as an engineer. Which one should I click to move forward? Right. It doesn't react. Okay, I got it. So Tonfi-san's screen was not available, but this is 4,400 people voted, and it's visualized. It's separated into 4 opinion groups. And this is information from parties' manifesto and party icons and overlaid. I think this the fact that there is a party's icon overlaid, I think, is advanced than Polis. And the interesting point is that there is one large opinion group that has no party representation. You might think that the parties are representing the public, but are the parties really representing the public? There could be an opinion that is not represented by any party. So it's very interesting to visualize. This is a survey on digital democracy, and we visualize through voting the position on digital democracy. Are the parties really representing? We discussed and decided not to put an icon of any party because we thought it was not appropriate. But the public opinion tend to be kind of, first of all, represented by a party, but it should be the other way around. And the fact that we're able to visualize the public opinion using this tool, I think, is wonderful. And this is using Polis algorithm and in the poll opinion map. And the algorithm not only could be used in voting. This is from Tokyo University Taniguchi Lab. I forgot which election it was. About 600 politicians' opinion was used as the bottom of the survey, and each of these dots represent individual politicians. And you can see which party they belong to. And what you can see is that even they are within the same party, politicians tend to have very different opinions, and the party tends to overlap. And so the question is, do these parties really represent the public opinion, or are they really just a mere loose group that shares a particular opinion, share a brand? So this is a PCH that is used by Polis. And this visualizing data, I think, has advanced very much in the past with UMAP, which is well-functioning. And we decided to use UMAP as well. Rather than what we saw through PCA, you can visualize how the opinions are apart. And one interesting finding was that even within the party, there are divisions within the same party. So if you take a look at it, it's a single party, but there are dark clusters, as you see at the top, but there are bigger clusters or cluster of opinions where many parties overlap. There is a darker color island, and there is another cluster where many different parties overlap. So this is what is occurring. This is broad listening, gathering a lot of different opinions and visualizing, and we are able to have a better understanding of what people think. So broad listening is an augmentation of human cognitive abilities. What happens is that broad listening will change social structure. Human beings can only understand a limited number of people, and that's why we look at each other as enemies or friends or foe or hierarchies and political parties. That kind of social structure emerged out of need, but with broad listening technology, AI is supporting how people can better understand each other. And the social structure needs might go away, and I think this will trigger a big change. So enhancing abilities will smooth boundaries. It will enhance human capabilities, and there are different boundaries that we're seeing because we're only able to see a very narrow area. But if you take a broader view, you're able to have access to different and multiple different views, and that would allow you to enhance your and our capabilities, and that would smooth out the boundaries, and therefore people will believe that plurality exists here and now. And with that, I think I've covered all the slides that I prepared.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for that. So yes, the CEDA technology, Colin created it, and then social application or implementation has been carried out by the two panelists from Japan, and I am looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Colin, any immediate reaction to the presentations?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing. I think one of the principles of Polis is opinion from the bottom up. So to try to observe society as it is in its own words, emergently. And I think one of the aspects of this that the project embodies is that you've directly compared it to the existing, we could call this a supervised learning. The parties are a kind of, we take as a prior that we have an ideology and that the ideology is representative. But in this case, by looking at the opinion as it was, you found opinion, a space that was not represented by existing party and opinion. And this is notable in that it's a direct comparison of the people and where they are and the political perspectives as they're elucidated, which gets to the nature of the implications, I would say, and perhaps this panel can discuss throughout the day as well, the implications for representative government and why this technology links up with so many of the more enormous ideas, as we heard just in the prior session from Audrey and Glenn, who have done so much enormous work in the translation of the concepts of representative government and of democracy and the way in which these ideas have been received, and then also written in books by Ken as well over time. The enormous work that Glenn, thank you for all of the translational work conceptually to make this possible so that we can see each other and to have this discussion as well. I'd like to note that because it was an enormous amount of work by all parties and technical and conceptual. And so I can say that from the nature of emergent opinion to the comparison with a political party in a technological environment to the implications that representative democracy or the representations that exist might not be a perfect reflection, to the idea that can happen in real time. I think this provides a very broad and open landscape for us to discuss why there are implications for representative democracy in the particular set of technologies that we're discussing today. Thank you so much for sharing.
ありがとうございます。では、
Thank you so much for that. So earlier, Nishio-san talked about Polis technology and broad listening technology. You discussed about how the world could change. But Colin, when you created Polis, what was the world you were envisioning? What kind of world did you want to see? If you could elaborate on that.
So the initial motivation for Polis is two-found, on two-part. On one hand, there is social media and the role of mobilization and the role of communication and synthesis. Specifically, can those who have been mobilized politically come together on ideas, a set of ideas, and to write and to be coherent. On the other hand, there is the vision of returning agenda-setting power to the public. And so when we consider the role of parties in modern democracies, they are aggregators. Parties aggregate ideas, and they aggregate positions and platforms. And in Polis, and also here, you can see when there are so many comments and there are so many positions, we are disaggregating and taking each dimension in turn. And this is an important contrast. So one vision is to see more of society and its views and perspectives, certainly in real time as an element of that, and at scale. That's an important dimension of the technology and the intention as well. The nature of agenda setting in modern democracies is such that we have a structural requirement, for instance, in U.S. politics, because of the party system and especially the primary system, to bundle all issues up onto one vote. And we can see this with votes like Brexit, where there is an imperative to combine many issues, many dimensions, and to roll them up into one vote, one total vote for all of society, whether it's a prime minister's election or a referendum or the U.S. presidential election. What V-Taiwan so powerfully demonstrated was that if we take one issue in turn and also have augmentation with machine intelligence, that we can then take the positions of society and spread them out and open up the space for there to be so many more positions taken. And I think this reflects the reality that we have to reconcile. It's not, it can't be both. Either a small number of parties who have aggregated all of the issues are the positions that could be possible in society, or, as V-Taiwan demonstrated, and I think is closer to the truth, even on one issue, like a sharing economy regulation like Uber or Airbnb or online alcohol sales. On each of those, there is an entire universe of possible opinion that can be instructive to policymaking, many stakeholders, a plurality of people and perspectives and all of that. And so returning complexity to deliberation, I think, speaks to some of the points that were made in the first panel about whether deliberation in society is alive or is not. And I think that this is what these exercises show, that we can re-inject, so to speak, complexity instead of where it has collapsed. And I think my perspective on the collapse of complexity in deliberation is partly to simplify, because there are so many issues, so many stakeholders, so many opinions, so many perspectives, that we fear chaos in society. And so the contrast, though, to chaos is authoritarianism. And if society gets more chaotic because there is new technology, because there are new issues, because there is change, we must constantly work and do the work of democracy to return back to complexity and richness in public discourse, so that we can see each other. And if it is the case that society has moved faster, then perhaps technology can augment us to get there.
ありがとうございます。多分おそらくトンフィーさんとか西尾さん
Well, thank you very much. Tofi-san and Nishio-san have been working on similar initiatives at their respective organizations. I believe that the sense of awareness here is the same. Listening to what Colin was explaining, Police, when I wanted to embed this on Japan choices, because we wanted to make political parties smooth. We wanted to sort of resolve the political parties, because within the LDP, there are some liberal people or conservative people. Within the Liberal Party, there are some conservative people. So looking at those individual politicians, their opinions are completely different. Their views are not consolidated, but because they have a party rules where politicians have to vote for a certain option. Sometimes such a decision-making is necessary because of the rules, but we wanted to dissolve them. For example, husband and wife are choosing separate surnames. Rather than asking yes or no, we would ask questions. Is it about the family register system, or is it just you wanting to use your maiden name in your daily life? So we wanted to give these options to people, how they would react. But at when we tried this for national politics, those individuals are sometimes not so strong, and there are those who have a strong argument, then broad listening is possible. But there are those who don't have a very strong opinions, and it's difficult for them to express their views. So for the past 10 plus years, I have been working for this non-profit, and what I feel is that autonomous decision making may be sometimes difficult for individuals. Some individuals are strong, but we have to assume that there are weak individuals, and they can, for example, give their mandates to someone else. They can say their answer is undecided. So in that sense, I believe quadratic voting is very good, because when it comes to police, you can choose yes, no, yes, no, and then analysis can be performed, but perhaps it's better to provide some credit to be consumed. For example, if there are 10 or 20 topics, people have don't have an strong opinions about all of them. And for example, you are given 1,000 credits, and if there is one issue that you are very much interested in, you can give 500 credits, for example. So you can have that sort of a plurality, because you have strong opinions and weak opinions within yourselves. So without having a system to reflect such a plurality, I think current system requires people to be very strong-minded about all the topics. So if individuals can give different weights to their views and opinions, then plurality within an individual can be perhaps reflected. What do you think?
To Nishio or to? Please, first, if you would.
So if I could follow up on that, whether you believe that it is a good idea to express your strong opinion or not, I think there's cultural background to that. If you're not really educated in a way that you can assert yourself, your strong opinion. In Japan, we're not educated in such a way. If you look at the surveys and the results, we tend to avoid confrontation. That's the majority. So you talked about quadratic voting, and there will be a lot of people who will be, voting equally because you don't know where to vote for. But the great thing about polis is that if there are intermediate people, it will express that there are intermediate people in the beginning. It doesn't, clearly separate different clusters. Like in Japan, people give different opinions, but we tend to see one group of people who have the majority being. So whether it be quadratic voting or not, if more and more people will participate, so that information will be shared and it would the social implementation, the cycle will run, I think it will lead to more improvement in the society.
Fascinating. I would say that social norms about expressing strong or weak, or very strong or very weak, is cultural and even down to the individual, which is one of the reasons that we chose to not intentionally do it in polis initially. However, quadratic funding and quadratic voting as a means to express variability, I think is very interesting. I think one of the most interesting questions that I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about after Glenn released his paper years ago on it is the question of scale, and the number of issues that when you give someone currency, and this is a rather technical point about the nature of these systems, but I think that there are very interesting and fertile opportunities to attempt to get to 1,000 and 10,000 items in quadratic funding. I think 100 is currently possible. I think that there are methods that might get people to 1,000 and 10,000 items. But I think that that is a very interesting and fertile area for research in collective intelligence and deliberative democracy. When we ask someone to make trade-offs between choices, and we need them to make trade-offs between potentially thousands of items, there are a number of I think interesting directions potentially that opened up by new technologies, and perhaps there will be more research here in Japan on that.
ありがとうございます。この議論、
Well, thank you very much for your comment. I think we can continue this kind of discussion for another an hour, but there is this QR code for the slide, and then we are receiving a lot of questions already. So for the remaining 10 minutes, I'd like to take up some of the questions from the panelists to respond to some of them. By the way, this QR code is different from the previous QR code used in the previous session. So let's pick the question that is the most popular. I believe that this is about the very final part of Nishio-san's slide, increasing people's capabilities related to plurality, but people have different levels of doing that. So maybe this is some theoretical discussion only. Is there any way to improve the ability of people? Thank you very much. I'm not talking about improving abstract skills. It is about people's skills to recognize broader opinions, and that's really all. That's my response. What do you think? Thank you very much.
いる質問だと、
Let's see if there are any other questions. I think this is a simple question. To Colin, Evangelion and Polis. What is the relationship between the two? That's very interesting. I would love to hear.
Between what?
Evangelion and Polis.
My goodness. Well, there is a computer in Neon Genesis Evangelion, and the computer has 3 parts, 3 subsystems. And when the builder of the computer built the... Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Yes, some? Okay, all right, okay. There's a computer in Neon Genesis Evangelion that was built by a doctor, and she has to maintain it, and her mother built it, and it has 3 parts. And each of the parts are different aspects of her mother's personality. And in this case, her mother has had the 3 maybe this is internal family system, but maybe that's to San Francisco. Okay, so this is a computer that has to agree with itself. It has to find agreement with itself, all 3 parts of it. Well, community notes is based on the idea of group-informed consensus from Polis. And group-informed consensus is the idea that first you gather a sparse binary matrix of agree, disagree, and pass, and what everyone thought about what everyone thought. Everyone writes, and then everyone votes. In this, in the matrix that results, when you do dimensionality reduction and you find clusters, you then say, okay, there are different clusters in society, right? So you have to look across the clusters, and you have to find where consensus is across the clusters. And this is a little bit inspired by that computer.
なるほど、ありがとうございます。
I see. Thank you very much. There must be someone in the room who asked the question. I hope you're convinced with that answer.
では次の
Okay. The next question. So the first question and the fourth question are closely related to each other. Okay, so let's read these 2 questions. So this question is quite simple. Individuals' opinions have to be based upon correct understanding about a phenomenon. Is that sort of a premise necessary? Is that a requirement? I think this is related to the system of policy and so on. Anyone? Well, so I try to read another area that is related. So these are technologies are useful to consolidate a number of opinions, but I believe that individuals can choose options that are beneficial for them. That is a premise. So maybe this is a challenge for the democracy itself, but maybe this is a challenge. I believe that these questions are essentially the same. So do we need individuals who are capable of making right decisions which will benefit themselves? Perhaps Uno Sensei and Suzukan Sensei are in the audience, and it is almost like a penalty for having to discuss this topic in front of them, because this is something we have been discussing all along since the times of Aristotle. I believe that there are many challenges and issues, and for which issue would you like to state your opinions? So I believe a right balance of distribution is necessary. So is that a quadratic voting that can be a solution to that, or is it a different way of voting? Because individuals are owning knowledge about every single topic in the right manner is difficult. That is why we have been working with this party system. For example, voting for one politician every 4 years. So should we replace the current system with an alternative governing system? If the answer is yes, rather than just casting one vote, some kind of distribution within the vote may be helpful, where you can give some weighting to your one vote. And I believe that policy is just one way of experimenting that. In response to that question, I think one angle that we are missing is that a collective decision-making or no collective decision-making. I think this angle is missing, because maybe there are those who have been misinformed or suffering from disinformation, and the person who asked this question is concerned about people making decisions based upon disinformation. So I believe it is one is a collective decision making, the other is understanding the world more correctly. So I believe that these topics have to be separated. By using Yoronchizu and police, I believe based upon the posts made by everyone, AI is not going to make an autonomous decision. It is more about people being able to understand the world better or more accurately, leading to better decision making. So it is about understanding the world better through a more accurate lens. I think this is necessary. So perhaps the person who asked this question didn't separate these two separate angles. So I just wanted to point this out.
ありがとうございます。では次の。
Thank you. Maybe the next question? Let me see. I see. Operation of polis. Being exposed to diverse opinion would broaden your perspective. I completely agree with that. And my question is, using polis, if you're able to deepen your discussion and mutual understanding will be enhanced, but maybe you can have further discussions, but mutual understanding is not reached. In which case, do you say is successful or failure? Anything that you can share with us from that perspective?
There is a benefit, in my view, to mapping and to understanding things as they are. If there is not consensus, that is where we are. And we should take that as a first step and understand that that is the reality in the opinion in a population. This is my view in building the technology. However, I could say that also in iterative phases, or if we leave it on for a while, and we have other processes in society, no matter whether that's, for instance, like a polis has been used, for instance, in climate assemblies in Austria. And the Austrian Climate Assembly did multiple polis conversations over successive stages. And so one might find different results at different time points. This is a material to the use of the technology, I think, think, and also interesting from the perspective of this question. And I think so. I think that the answer is a bit of both. It is important to map and to understand things as they are, and consensus might not be found immediately, or consensus so defined or so surfaced by the system. But we might use it iteratively, and we might use it successively. I hope that answers the question.
ありがとうございます。このセッションはよ
Well, thank you very much. Well, we're supposed to end the session at 3:45. We are already over time, so I believe that the next session is approaching, and also the topic is related to this one as well. So thank you very much for your participation in this session.